Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a great day. You are listening to or watching this episode of the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh and Bill. Today, we have one SEO on the show, and I'm talking with Bill Rossell, and we are talking digital marketing. I mean, we can talk a lot of stuff. We don't have a true outline. I mean, when it comes to digital marketing or just marketing in general, there's lots of rabbit holes we could jump into and deep dive. I'm going to do my very absolute best to keep this episode at 20 or 30 minutes because, man, I could talk for days when it comes to digital marketing or marketing in general. But with that being said, welcome to the show, Bill.
Hey, thanks, Rush. We obviously been kind of just queuing things up in a pre-show, and it's been a phenomenal conversation up to this point. And I assume that we're going to have some more great conversation as we go through the podcast, and hopefully I can give some wisdom and knowledge to your listeners as far as any questions you might have about what we do and how we try to help all kinds of businesses grow and hit their revenue goals.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about you and your company and what you have going on there and kind of the history and what makes you an expert.
Well, what makes me an expert, I don't know if I'll claim that one, but I've been with One SEO for the last 6 years. We're a full service digital agency based out of Philadelphia. Company's been around for 12 years. Started by a brother and sister. It's had great growth over the course of the last 12 years. Google Premier Partner. We work with a lot of organizations like CEO Warrior, Nexstar, and other companies out there. But we're not just a service-based business, digital marketing agency. We do e-com, lawyers, doctors, dentists, chiropractors, plastics. Any type of business that's looking for lead growth. We kind of have a fundamental philosophy that you can't be B2B, can't be B2C. You kind of have to be B2E, business to everything today, in order to support where you're going and what you're doing. So I'm originally from Pittsburgh. I was spent 6 years in the United States Navy on board nuclear powered submarines. Went back to school at Northeastern up in Boston. Spent some time in the restaurant business, and then I decided I wanted to get out of that. Started selling print yellow pages, went to internet yellow pages. And believe it or not, at one time, yellowpages.com had more local customers than Google did, if you can believe that, in 2005.
Wow.
So, and then transitioned into the internet world and kind of haven't looked back.
So what would you say, first off, thank you for your service in the Navy. That's that.
I appreciate it. You as well.
Man, being on a submarine, whew, not me. I can't drink all that water.
Well, that's where spending the longest stretch I had was 84 days underwater. And it's definitely an environment that takes you to be a little bit crazy, kind of like working in digital marketing. But it's something that I cherish. I have the lifelong friends that I've gained from that, and more importantly, the life skills that you learn in the military are aspects which can help you, as you well know, throughout the course of your life, because you become disciplined in what the military teaches you, that there is a system to every single aspect in military life. And those businesses that you see successful develop systems along the way that are going to help any business to be, from turning the lights on when you walk in to making the pot of coffee. There's a system to it. It's going to be successful in what people are doing.
Yeah, I mean, you have SOPs for everything that you do, and it is mind blowing, especially for someone who is, you're full time in the military. I mean, maybe you've spent 20 years in the military, and we have this because we're in Savannah. We have Fort Stewart, Hunter. We have 165th, the airlift wing. We have Navy. We have
Kings Bay.
Guard. Yeah, we have Kings Bay. I mean, you have Coast Guards. We have everything here. We have Paris Island. I mean, we have all the branches are right here. And so we have career military members that are getting out and then coming to civilian world. And they're like, wait a minute, what's the SOP on this? What do we do here? I'm like, man, just wing it, and and you tell somebody that and they're like, nah, that's not how we do things. And it's like, welcome to civilian world, and it sucks, but it's so much of it as a small business owner, we're talking digital marketing. Let's don't drive in the rabbit hole here of process and procedures, but this, it's so crazy of how much a small business owner, like we got out of a truck and we were like telling the next guy, well, just do it this way. This is how we've always done it. Or that's what you hear is this is how you always done it. Where's that written down at? You're like, what's the actual process on this? Well, the process is in my head. I don't have it written down. So there's not really a standard operating procedure on this. It is just how we've always done it. And obviously you can't do that. You have to write down the procedures, record the procedures. What we do, I mean, we're a remote company, and very much we rely on digital, um, just information management. So we have full information management system on our website, and so like the back end's accessible by our employees. So whenever we have something come across, it's like recorded a short video of it, and we'll upload the video, and then that becomes the process. And then if anybody has questions about it, it's easy for them to access that
No different than no different than us here at One SEO. We had to, and congratulations on being remote before it was time to be remote.
Right.
Most businesses aren't that lucky, but for us, we made an incredible shift to going to a 100% remote environment back in March of last year, not by any choice that we wanted to, but by the choice of what we had to do. And what it did was it influenced our overall teams, whether it be search engine optimization, pay-per-click management, sales. Every team was able to become more efficient and effective because we could use the Zooms to our advantage to be able to say, let's watch the game film. What did we do well? For years, every coach in every major sport uses film as a method to make the team better. We took that same approach and said, all right, here's what we're going to do on a weekly basis. We're going to dissect each one of our teams, whether it be the client relations team or the SEO team or the PPC team or the social media team, how we're having that communication and transparency with our clients to be able to say, how do we make ourselves better? And so it almost became a standard operating procedure in itself to utilize Zoom and video to better help us with our clients and being able to say, this is where we can look to say, we did this great, but we could improve on this. And so most businesses are really taking advantage of the ability to utilize Zoom as far as that recording feature and, for lack of better words, watch the game film.
I love that you said that. Do you ever get into the situation, or have you seen anybody get into a situation where it's like, oh, it's too much content, like it's too much film to watch? I could see that analysis paralysis type stuff going on.
Definitely. You have to be able to look at the parts of the game film where, okay, let's skip over the good stuff. Let's skip over that. Let's take a look and dissect where do we overall go better. And so, yes, there is that paralysis by analysis as far as having so much content. I mean, you think about it, your average client call is running an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. On the sales side, we might be in a call with a client for an hour and 15 minutes, just talking about all the different marketing that particular client has, from digital, traditional, where they're taking it. And so what's working well for them? How is it, on the service base, how is it working in with their House Call Pro or their Service Titan? And where are they seeing the pros and cons of doing this particular form of marketing versus another? John Wanamaker said it best: half of all advertising works. It's about figuring out which half works and which half doesn't. And let's put more money into the half that works than the half that doesn't.
That's the $1 million question there,
And as soon as you know that answer, as soon as you know what's working well, you stick with the game plan. It's not like, let's change the offense just to say, let's change it, especially in today's world.
Yeah. I mean, very, very true. So it kind of leads into one of my questions for you, and that is, let's say we're a sub $1 million company, and we don't have a massive budget because we're bootstrapping everything, and maybe it's our first or second year in business. Where do I spend my marketing dollars, and what percentage do you think that we need to be as far as being a market spend versus our total revenue?
Boy, you just hit me with the direct question right out of the gate, which I can appreciate. Now, one of the things that I will tell you is that you can be successful on any budget. Okay, you can be successful on any budget, but it's not a matter of where the revenue currently is from our vantage point. It's about where the revenue's going.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you want to go? So if you're doing 500,000 and you want to do 850, 900, or you want to crack that million mark, look at either one of two things in our opinion. Number one is look at the incremental growth that you're trying to, because you have to look at how much client revenue is coming through on your maintenance plans, or specifically your existing customer base. So do you want to look and say, okay, if I'm going from 500 to a million, is it that $500,000 gap that I want to look at, or do I want to look at the overall revenue? If I'm looking at an aggressive growth plan, I think that's where you have to be more aggressive in your marketing allocation. The Small Business Administration says that businesses under 5 million should allocate 7 to 8% of that marketing allocation. Now, how that's broken down, digital, traditional, non-digital, you can look at that overall, but I would take a look at where my total revenue goals are. Look anywhere from how aggressive that number is in growth, and then specifically say anywhere between 6 and 8% of that as a marketing allocation. Here's the caveat on the second part of that question is, what am I looking to do if I'm a service-based business? Okay, is I'm looking at local service ads. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that first and foremost, you're going to see your greatest return, but also look at in your market how many people, when you go to the local service ads and it'll say more HVAC providers, look at how many people are competing in your marketplace. I just happened to look the other day in another market in Phoenix. There's 125 HVAC companies competing for the local service ads in the Phoenix market. So you're ultimately going to have to say the chances of you getting that budget allocation, because there's only so much searches, are going to be small. I looked in another market, there was 85. More and more people have got into the local service ads. So now you have to look and say, do I have the budget to compete as far as where my market is comparatively to where the market is going? So I think that every business is a little bit different, but if I'm sitting in the business that's doing 850, I'm looking at local service ads first. And if I couldn't compete in that market, I'm going to start to say, I'm going to look at putting ads in the map pack for the geographic region that I can, because it's a lower cost per click that I might be running as far as straight PPC aspects from an HVAC standpoint. And then I'm always going to work on where my long-term organic strategy is, because 60% of all people are still looking towards organic versus looking on the paid side of the equation. There's just so much trust in what people see from an organic standpoint.
Sweet. There's so many questions that just arose from you talking things. The 5 to 8%. Are you saying if our budget, like if our target is $1 million, are we taking 8% of $1 million? Or are we taking 8% of 800,000?
So there's 2 points. Number one is you can look and say, I'm going to take the 8% of the $1 million. Okay, so you should have an overall marketing budget of 80,000 on $1 million throughout the course of the year. That's for wraps, stickers, LSAs, PPC, SEO, direct mailers, door hangers, whatever that method that might be that flows into that marketing. You should be looking at 80 grand all total of where you're going. Another way to look at it is say, okay, well, if I want to go from 800,000 to $1 million, I might want to look at 20 to 22% of my incremental revenue growth as far as getting there. You're going to get one way or the other. You're going to come within $5,000 to $6,000 of where it might be. If you go 20% on that market, you're looking at a $40,000 budget. It would give you a 4 to 1 return. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it really comes down to where you're comfortable with as far as setting your budget allocations for growth.
Okay. So you a digital marketing agency, full marketing agency.
Yep. So
this may be a hard question to answer. Do we do digital marketing before we do a wrap, or and then yard signs and door hangers and postcards, like how do we justify spend on one versus the other?
Yeah, I think that that's where I kind of go back a little old school, and there's those forms of directive advertising versus branding. To build the brand, it's like the chicken or the egg. What comes first? Does it come that I want people to know who I am, or does it come for people? I want them to find me when they don't know who I am. Obviously, there's the power of your truck sitting in my driveway or that yard sign. Okay, but that's only being seen by a limited amount of people. If I can directly target to specifically who I want to target, it's then a different situation. So we've had some great success with not only looking at LSAs, PPC, SEO, but we've had great success in looking at lead generation through social media and being able to say, hey, how can you target specific end users utilizing your existing client base to be able to bring back that in their feed? Okay, those people that are like-minded individuals. You and I both belong to the same local football club. We both share that on social media. You're a client of mine. I upload that into the back end of my Facebook ads manager. Now I'm getting feedback for your company in my feed because you and I are those same type of people. And Facebook knows that, and they're going to share that information. It's going to be a way that you can generate additional lead generation at a lower cost than what that $60, $70, $80 per click that you might pay for furnace repair in Savannah. So there's different ways to look at it. I think it all comes down to what's your return on ad spend. Did I spend X? Did I get Y? And if you got Y, and Y is more than the other campaign, let's put more into Y.
Is there a point of spending too much money? Like, is there a point where it's like, all right, diminishing returns? Like we're spending more money, but our percentage isn't the same amount.
It depends. If you ask Google, they'll say no. If you ask an agency, there is going to be some point of there's going to be a diminishing return, because at the end of the day, you're going to look at where your 3-day job boards are and say, hey, where am I? Can I actually take on the work that I'm spending to get the calls? And so I think that's where you have to have a good communication with your agency to be able to understand what's transpiring between you and the agency to help direct that particular campaign success. Because if your guys are completely booked out and I'm driving calls, that's wasted money. And we never want to waste any client's money. We want to make that money work as efficiently and effectively as possible for you.
So what happens the first, let's call it 3 weeks of the summer? Like here, we don't have a winter. Let's just be honest. We don't get winter here. But first couple of weeks of summer, we get hit hard with the no cool calls, and we got to turn PPC off, like, or cut it back. Does that create like a huge negative look in Google or anybody's eyes? Like when we go to turn it back on, you're like, oh crap, like the faucet turned back off. Like let's turn it back on,
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the factors that's really important to understand is that quality score that goes into any one of your ad campaigns. Google's like any other business. You don't want to have your call volume ratcheting up, ratcheting down. You want to have a consistent call volume. Google's the same way. They want to know that money is going to be there consistently over a period of time. So what happens is you'll see companies that'll ratchet campaigns up, they'll ratchet them down. But what that does is it affects the overall quality score of that paid campaign. I'd rather bring it down slowly by having good communication of what's transpiring than ratchet it up, ratchet it down, because what happens is quality score for the layman is like credit score. Okay. If I walk into a bank, right, with an 805, they're going to say, Mr. Rossell, here you go. Here's 30-year fix at 2.99. Have a great day. Right. Yeah. If I walk in with a 505, they're going to say, you better get that 20% down. You better call Tersh, and then you better have that good cosigner come in. And now you're going to pay 9% on that particular. Google's the same way. If you have a quality score on those ad campaigns coming back at a 2 or a 3, you might end up paying more than that actual bid price on that particular cost per click, because Google's saying that the quality score of these campaigns is not as good as you want them to be, or they want them to be. And so, ultimately take a look at what's happening from a standpoint and say, let's slowly lower it down and let's slowly lower it back up before just going, I'm going to set a $300 a day budget, and then I'm going to push you down into a $100 or $10 a day budget.
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep it more consistent and ratcheting up and ratcheting down, and always protect your brand as it applies to PPC campaigns where you never turn that off.
Okay. Yeah. Go into detail with that. I mean, I wanted to ask another question, but you just dropped the little golden nugget there. So explain what you mean by that.
Yeah. A lot of times what will happen is that, whether it be one SEO that somebody's doing a search for,
Mm-hmm.
okay, competitors will bid on your brand all the time. Okay. So incrementally, what you can see is when you rank well for you, most businesses, 99% of them, unless their website is completely hosed, when you put in the term one SEO, you're going to come back relevant for it. You always want to keep your brand protected by having a paid ad there. Your cost on that ad is going to be pennies on the dollar versus allowing somebody else to come in and bid on your brand. And I see larger companies bidding on brands of smaller competitors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what will happen is, you'll look for an HVAC company here in Philadelphia, and you'll see Horizon Services bidding on that brand. Well, that's great. That's protecting them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or it's somebody else out there, wherever it might be across the country. But it's always about saying, hey, I want to make sure that my brand and my name, because I did that vehicle wrap, because I did that postcard, that if somebody's searching for me, okay, because of a referral, word of mouth, social media, somebody told you, you always want to make sure that you're represented in that search for the brand.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. When I first really was getting to the business owner stage, I was so frustrated with the agency I was using because majority of my PPC ad spend was on my own brand name, and I was like, I don't understand why I have to do this, and it was so frustrating to me. But also our website sucked, so our cost per click was high, which that kind of leads me into the question I was going to ask before. Your brand, the score of it's not just how fast and you move the needle up and down. It's also that the page, like relevancy to the keyword search, your landing page versus sending them to your home page type stuff, right?
You couldn't hit it better, and you're going to see a tremendous amount of change about end user experience. Okay. We're a little bit different in an agency. A lot of agencies will say, let me write out customized landing pages across the board, no index them. We want to drive the traffic into the page that's most relevant. So, obviously for Service Emperor, and when you're looking for specifically a heating, well, you don't have any heat in Savannah, but AC repair in your marketplace, I want to land them on that AC repair page where you've talked about what makes that page experience, how long they're spending on that particular page. Did they bounce? Did they move to another page? Are those pages interlinking between one another? How you set up that experience of from where the ad goes to where it lands is also going to be a major factor in helping with that quality score. I mean, it's Google. Just when we think we figure everything out, they change the question. And that's where you have to understand that the fundamental philosophies that exist are providing a great end user experience and being able to say, how am I talking? You have two people that you have to facilitate. Number one, you have to facilitate the person that's looking for you. Mm-hmm. And number two is you have to facilitate Google. Mm-hmm. And I have clients that'll come to me and they'll be like, yeah, well, we rebuilt our site 5 years ago, and I don't think it needs any changes. Okay, well, what somebody wanted 5 years ago and what somebody wants now, they're two completely different. The end user's journey is there's so much noise mm-hmm. in the world today. It's the fantasy marketing dream is to say, oh, I need something. I went to Service Emperors, I found it, and I'm calling.
Yeah.
That doesn't even include when my wife says, take out the garbage. I left that particular situation. Now I lost track because my phone went off.
Yep.
Now it's a situation where I'm getting hit with a retargeting ad from you. And now the journey is a completely different journey than it's ever been before. So you have to look at those different touch points that end user could potentially see and catch you, or somebody else is going to take that business from you.
That's tons of great points there. I mean, geez, more questions. The the retargeting. So people may be listening and they're like, "What the hell is retargeting?" Uh, Explain retargeting really fast, and I have a question about it after you
Okay.
finish.
Everybody always asks, well, retargeting is very, very simple. There's code that's placed onto your website. Okay. When you come to that website, now that particular end user is going to be followed along based on the cookie being dropped onto that particular site. So whether it be within the Google Display Network, whether it be within Facebook, Instagram, you're going to be able to say, I'm going to hit that person with an ad because they came to my site. It's that simple. And I will tell you, if there's nothing else out of as driving traffic from an LSA standpoint, you absolutely, as a service-based business, need, and I'll repeat that one more time, absolutely need to have retargeting campaigns set up to keep the journey alive for the people who found you.
So with retargeting itself, it seems like a very, very complicated process if you don't have a digital marketing agency. Is that accurate statement to say? Not to ask the digital marketing agency if we need a digital marketing agency. But
my answer to that is, you're better off using an agency to help you setting up the right campaigns, because then you can start to do additional things like, I want to dynamically hit an ads for somebody that landed on an AC repair page with an AC repair ad. Somebody that landed on a furnace installation page, I want to hit them with a furnace installation ad. Okay. I think that the easiest way to explain that to people is, as far as retargeting, you went out to buy a new set of golf shoes. And then all of a sudden you're seeing golf shoes ads, not only for the brand that you wanted, but the brands that are similar are going to build out additional campaigns. All of a sudden you're seeing 7 ads in your feed that show golf shoes from Callaway, from Nike, from FootJoy. You're seeing all those. And same way that if I come to Service Emperors, it's a situation that I'm now being hit with all these other agencies that are trying to capture that data that you already have and put noise into that person's feed.
All right. So on the retargeting, how in depth is retargeting? Like, if I say something, is Siri listening to me, and then I'm getting ads from Siri?
Well, it's never been publicly said, but I ran a test of this when I was in Vegas for the Service Roundtable event in Vegas. And I have never in my life been to the Cartier jeweler. Okay. And I happened to be walking in the Paris hotel, and there was a Cartier jeweler. I said to myself, man, I wonder what it's like to go into the Cartier jeweler. Somehow I started getting ads for Cartier jewelers.
No, it's not a proven fact, but it's kind of proven that
That's a soft test. That's a soft test of what's out there. The big thing with voice, and let me just caveat that for a second, and this is why you haven't seen voice take off to the level that it has the capability is because the majors in Apple, Amazon, Google have not been able to figure out how to monetize it. Because if you say HVAC repair company Savannah, or you say furnace repair Savannah, or you say AC repair Savannah, it can only give you one response.
Yeah. Right.
And because it can only give you one response, it can't be monetized to the way that a local service ads are, a PPC ads are, a Facebook ads are. So until they truly figure out the way to monetize that local search from a voice standpoint, you're going to probably still see it at bay, in my opinion.
I wonder. So this is just me being inquisitive because I transcribe every one of these episodes. I transcribe pretty much everything that I do. Um, at what point does it become the real conversation? Because we all know that Panda came in effect, and then all the different platforms, and then they would change things and move it more towards real conversations and away from keyword stuffing type stuff. At what point does it? Because unless you're in the HVAC industry, you don't say HVAC. You know what I mean? Like it's not
I
something.
said that all the time. And when I see clients that set up their websites, and I just had this conversation with a warrior the other day, you've put the term HVAC. HVAC is a term that you and I both use because
Right.
you're in it. I don't see a lady doing a query and in the keyword research say HVAC companies near me.
Mm-hmm.
She says furnace repair companies near me. She says air conditioning repair companies near me. He says boiler repair near me or boiler repair Savannah. So I think that the point is the content,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and what you're saying to that end user. And here's a golden nugget to evaluate. Look at your pages on your website for those different you know, different topics, AC repair, AC installation. Look at those pages and see what the word and the content is on it. Generally, on a localized search, you should be thinking that there's anywhere from 400 to 600 words of content that those major terms that page should be relevant for. You don't want to overwhelm it by, like you said, keyword stuffing and saying AC repair in Savannah, get your best AC repair in Savannah, having more AC repair in Savannah. And that makes a keyword density, meaning the total number of keywords divided by the total page content. You put yourself in this position where it's like 30%, and you're saying, watch your relevancy and your rankings go like this.
So 400 to 600 is good. We don't need to be 2,000 to 3,000.
No, not on a localized search. If you were a national company like Train or Bryant or Rude trying to get more traffic to your, from a manufacturer standpoint, I would say, yeah, you want to be anywhere between 1,200 to 1,400 words. Now, there are good long form blog content that you might be looking to gain a rich snippet for, like where somebody might say, why does my furnace smell when turning on? Common one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And because everybody flips the switch in the middle of November, that first freeze, and it
Mm-hmm.
smells like there's something burning or there's
Yep.
a dead cat in your house. So,
Hopefully, there's not a
that
dead
type
cat in the
of,
furnace.
I'm sure there probably have been raccoons, whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that you want to be in a situation where you're looking at an overall strategy to provide that. I'm talking about the page that existing on the site, putting that additional content out. 1,000 words. If you got a great topic that you want to really put out some good content, the thing that I suggest to people is when they're putting content out in the form of blogs, nugget here, make sure you're internally linking it to the page you want it to be relevant for.
Okay, so you want a local page that's separate from the blog page, and you want to link the two together internally.
Correct. So in other words, if I'm writing a page on AC repair services
Mm-hmm.
in Savannah, right? And I'm going to write content on why to choose, okay, Service Emperor. All right. I want to and that's about AC repair. I want to link that to your AC repair page through a hyperlink on the blog that will allow that page to pass the juice when Google caches and indexes the blog to the internal page.
Okay, so what if you have a Pooler, a Savannah, a Richmond Hill, a Tybee Island, a Wilmington Island, like those local pages for AC
Well, you're going to
repair?
have a good time living in Savannah if that's the case because of all those good pages. But what you want to do is make sure that the contents that's structured around that main page incorporates those different locations into it. Okay. Now you'll see
So
a
we don't
lot
need
of
to create a new blog post for each one of those local pages, and it's not bad to have those local pages as long as they're not the same content, like duplicated, and then just change the word Tybee to Wilmington. Is that right?
correct. Duplicate content is bad.
Right.
Okay. Duplicate content is really bad. You want it to be unique to what that particular. Now, granted, there's only so much I can say about air conditioning repair. So when I have 70 localized pages all saying air conditioning repair in wherever city it might be, you put yourself in a position that you can see where that internal duplicate content is. And once there's a tool, it's called SiteLiner, SITELINER.com. You can put your URL in it and it'll scan your entire site, and it will give you information such as what's the amount of duplicate content on that particular website. Okay, what's the common content? Are there broken links? And it'll tell you right off the bat, you have too much duplicate content.
Now, does it tell you a percentage? And I'm sure that as soon as you figure out the perfect percentage, Google is going to say psych and change it on you. But
we would generally see that anything's greater than between 18 to 20% duplicate content is going to start to hurt you in your overall aspect of what you're doing.
So you really have to have like, whew, I am not a creative. I'm glad I pay somebody to do this because that would, whew, not copywriter here.
No, either am I. We have great ones on staff, and they're really talented at what they do, but it's not something I'm good at. I'm lucky if I can get through my kid's 7th grade or 8th grade essay without having grammatics. That's what they make Grammatically for.
Yeah, that's the little green thing at the bottom of your screen, whatever it's called. Man, yes. I'll live. They're like, it's $120 a year. I will pay it. I will gladly pay it. You're like, man, that your stuff makes so much sense. You don't have grammatical errors on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, it's not me. Trust me, it's not me. Oh yeah, that's cool. Bill, man, I honestly, like, I wrote, I was writing like a madman with questions and stuff as you were talking. Like I said at the beginning, we could go for hours.
No doubt.
For people who have more questions, want to connect with you more, what's the best way for that to happen?
Yeah, I'm pretty easily found on LinkedIn at Bill Rossell, or you can look me up at on Facebook, or just hit me up at B Rossell, ROSSELL at oneseo.com.
And the one that's not spelled out, that's the number
one.
Bill, man, I appreciate it. You answering all my questions, and I know some of them probably are stupid questions, but hey.
No question's a stupid question. I think there's a famous old saying, stupid is as stupid does. Right. And if you don't ask the question, you don't get the response to what you're looking for. Listen, I am totally psyched that we got to spend some time together. I think that this was awesome for me as well as for your listeners. And by all means, if anybody has any questions, they can hit me up directly.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And thank you for anybody that's listening to or watching this episode of Service Business Mastery Podcast. This, as you can tell, this is something that while I don't do digital marketing and I don't have a digital marketing agency, it's something of interest to me. It's something that I love having the conversations about. And this is also one of the biggest topics that we get asked. Like if somebody sends me an email, I can almost guarantee you that somewhere in that question is something to do with digital marketing or just marketing in general. And so with that being said, don't hesitate to reach out to me. While I can't immediately respond to anything, if you send me an email, you're going to get an autoresponder that I only check my emails twice a day. And so it's legit. I try to check them as often as possible, but don't hesitate to reach out to me. Tersh at serviceemperor.com. I had to think of my email address. Tersh at serviceemperor.com, TERSH at serviceemperor.com. I said that like 12 times. Send me an email if you have a question. With that being said, thank you again for listening to this episode of the Service Business Mastery Podcast. It is a podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who may be considering becoming business owners themselves. I hope on today's episode, we answered some unasked questions. Hell, we probably opened up a few rabbit holes for you, and you probably have a few more questions, and sorry about that. But until next time, stay safe, and check in next week. We'll see you.